Thank you, Emily. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Welcome, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the Bay County Library because, it is really interesting to me. And I think everyone is trying to pivot and everyone is trying to do different ways to engage their audiences. And cultural institutions in particular play a very important role in our society. So I just want to thank the Bay County Library System and all of the staff there for, doing the hard work and working and trying to figure out ways that you can still put on quality programming for your constituents in the middle of a pandemic, So we thank you all for doing that. All right. So my name is Zarinah El-Amin, and today we're going to talk about how to leave a written legacy, So I'm going to share my screen. Now, I am someone who is open to questions. And so what that means is that I'm going to periodically probably try to stop and make sure I'm answering your questions. And I want you to not be shy as well. This is your opportunity to get information from me for free. So I want you to use me while I'm here. Any questions that you have about book writing, any questions that you have about the material I'm going to present to you all today, feel free to ask those questions. All right, feel free to ask those questions. Let me just make sure I can actually still see the chat. There we go. Okay, cool. I can still see it. All right, awesome. So today we're talking about leaving a written legacy, So for those of you who are new to me, my name is Zarinah El-Amin. I am a cultural anthropologist from Detroit, Michigan. I'm a global presenter. I've published close to about 30 books or so now. I have authored 2 of those. The others have been for my clients and family. I am a graduate of Howard University and Western Michigan University. And my mission in the world, if you will, is to assist culture-making entrepreneurs and community members and leaders with amplifying their messages so that we can contribute to the positive evolution of society. That is our ultimate goal. We want to see our society move in ways that are going to be for the betterment of us all, right? That is the ultimate goal. Now, today we're going to be talking about books. And we're not just talking about any old type of book. We're talking about a good, what I call power book. And a power book affects business, it affects legacy, and it affects our humanity, right? And when I say business, what I mean by that is that a book is a beautiful way to build authority for those who are entrepreneurs, for those who have businesses. It is a beautiful way for those who are even in corporate careers. It's a beautiful way to build authority and build your name in your industry. Legacy, I'm going to get into that a little bit more today, but humanity is a way for us, as I said earlier, to contribute to the positive evolution of our society by sharing your ideas, by sharing your skills, by sharing the knowledge, by sharing the lessons learned that you have had, the unique lessons learned that only you have had, right? You share those in order for someone else to be able to do their life just a little bit easier, right? It's not just tell all, just to be, la, 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 la. That's not it. It's for us to be able to take what we have experienced and help someone else do life just a little bit easier, right? So for us, within our realm of the types of books that we help to produce and the types of things that we do, they're centered around these 3 pillars: building people's businesses, helping them to leave a written legacy, and then again, helping us to create a positive evolution in our society. So today I'm going to focus on that middle section, if you will. We're going to talk about legacy. So now, what is legacy? Let's see what you all think about. So we're going to use the chat today, you all. So this is not going to be just a sit back and listen to Zarinah talk. This is going to be some interaction, and I would appreciate everyone who kind of gives that to me, right? So when you think about legacy, what do you think about? You can type into the chat box, but what do you think about when you think about legacy, right? So many people sometimes may take it at a big level, and they'll think about like philanthropy. Oh, such and such has their name on the side of the building. You know, Carmanos, Ford, like they have their name on the side of the big, they've left a legacy. Someone else may say, oh, well, such and such started an organization, you know, and it's their center, so it's their legacy, right? Someone else may say, you know, I shared what I learned with someone else, and that's my legacy. Someone else may say, oh, well, it's about how I raised 28 grandchildren, you know, and I'm going to share that story. That's my legacy. So let's see. Janelle says, I would like to leave something for my children, maybe family history. Sister Jane says, inheritance. All right, inheritance. Stephanie said, leaving something after me that impacts the world after I'm gone. Yes. They said, my lived experiences. Something that is of huge importance, I think is what Aziza and Aaliyah are saying. Generational wealth. Generational wealth. Yeah. So for some of us, when we think about legacy, we think about those tangible things that we're passing down, right? Those tangible things that we're passing down. Money, right? Institutions, businesses, those tangible things. And then for some of us, it is about the memories or the ideas that we're passing down, right? Patrice says, how others will remember me. How others will remember me. Awesome. So when I think about legacy, I see you all, keep dropping them into the chat box. We're going to come back to them. When I think about legacy, I think about who we are and how who we are is shared with those people who are coming after us long after we're gone, right? So there's no right or wrong answer to my question of what is legacy, but this is one of the main things that I think about as a cultural anthropologist, right? Like the ideas of who I am, how I showed up in the world, how I presented myself, how I connected with other people in my community and those around me, right? Like the story of who I am and that being passed down. So if you look on this screen here, you know, you see this elderly woman, and this is a picture that I took in a city outside of Chess in Senegal. So it's a small city in Senegal. You may know the capital of Senegal, Dakar. We're maybe about 3 hours or so away from Dakar. I was attending a community meeting about cleaning up. This was a meeting. So envision, right? Everyone is there. There are shovels over to the side. On the other side, there are some trees that are going to be planted. There are some wheelbarrows on the other side. There's gloves. So the whole meeting is about a big cleanup effort that's about to happen for that region, for that town, right? Now, I don't speak French and I don't speak Wolof. So I don't understand everything that's happening in the meeting around me, right? So I'm sitting there and I notice, you know, I can see who the facilitator of the meeting is. So they get up and then they would introduce people to come up and speak, right? They would introduce different people. I can clearly see that without me understanding exactly what was going on. But then I started noticing, like every time, not every time, but every maybe third person or so, like a lady, an elderly lady would get up and she would be interrupting the person that was talking. She was like, da, 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 da. And then I was like, what's going on? Like she was really passionate about this cleanup. You know what I mean? Like goodness, like she must have been really upset. Too much trash in her area. Like what's going on? So at the end of the break, you know, I asked the guy who was with me, I said, hey, you know, who are those women that keep getting up and interjecting when the speakers are coming? And he was like, oh, those are the griots. I said, well, what are they doing? He said, they are telling the story of that person's family. So the person that got up and would start talking about whatever it is that they were saying in relationship to the cleanup process that was happening, the griot would come up and the griot would interject and would remind that person of where they came from. literally in the middle of a meeting, right? In the middle of a meeting, which was so powerful for me. So for those of us, like a griot is an oral historian, right? And so when we think about West Africa, this is an oral historian, a long old time tradition that before the written word came about, there were people, there still are today, people who are charged with recording the history of the individuals in a particular society. So if I'm speaking right now, imagine I'm speaking right now, a griot may come up and tell me about my mother, tell me about my grandmother, tell me about my grandmother's grandmother, tell me about my grandmother's grandfather. They tell you about your own history. I tell you, I was totally blown away when I was at this meeting, because that's not something that we normally here in America experience, right? We don't have our legacy being recalled back to us on a day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis, right? We just do not have that type of tradition that is there. So what do we do? What is our job, to preserve our legacy? If we're not going to have a griot that's going to be telling us and telling our grandkids, who we were and who are great, then it's incumbent upon us to be able to do that for ourselves, right? It's incumbent upon us to be able to do that for ourselves. And so your legacy, capturing your legacy, is a gift. It is truly a gift to both you right now, right? To be able to have the power to tell your story in your own words. That is a gift. That is a gift. And it's also a gift to both your family, future generations, as well as to society's future generations as well, right? As well as to society's future generations as well. So we need to understand that it's not such just a light thing, like, oh, such and such wrote a book. This is a powerful thing that we have the opportunity to do. We have the opportunity to capture our story. We have the opportunity to tell it in the way that we want to tell it, not the way somebody else flavors it, not the way somebody else interprets it, but we have the power to tell our own story, share our own skills, our knowledges, our expertise. We have the ability to share that ourselves, right? And I think that we should not take this lightly. When you look at the history of the written word, we went from oral traditions, like I mentioned, in Senegal, other places around the world. We went from oral traditions, and then people started hammering into clay tablets, right? That was how the written word, you had the hammering into clay tablets. And then it moved to the Gutenberg press and actual printing on paper, and that revolutionized, the book world and publishing and all of that, right? But there was a time that not everyone in society was able to actually write and share their story. And I'm not even speaking about people of color in America. I mean, even in Europe and even within other industries or other communities, if you will, like there were only a select few people that had the ability to write and tell their story. It was a very powerful thing and a very controlling thing, if you will, of who could write a book and who could not, right? Like that was all controlled. So what I want to just put in our mind right now is that we need to recognize that where we are, what we have, the technological advances that make it easier for us to write a book, but also the social advances that allow for everyone to be able to write a book is indeed a powerful thing that is a gift for both you, yourself, as well as those who are going to come after you, right? As well as those who are going to come after you. Do you all agree with me? Let's see. Anybody? I can see kind of your hands on, I can see some of you on the screen. Thank you all for those who came on video. Love you. Thank you. So yes, so you agree with me. All right, cool. So let's keep going. So the reason I'm very passionate about this, these are three of my kids, right? I only have three. These are the three. These are my three kids, right? These are my three children. But I recognize what I'm missing in my life, and I want to be able to give that to my children and then my future children, right? Like my future grandchildren. I wish that I had something that my grandmother wrote. I wish that I had something that my great grandfather wrote in his own words, where I could actually go and read. You know, I don't care what it was, even if it was on how to hammer a nail into the wall clearly or whatever. You know, it doesn't matter what subject, but just for me to be able to have that type of connection to my ancestors, you know, those people. And so I want to be able to do that for my children and my great grandchildren and my great grandchildren, right? And guess what? They don't care whether great grandmama was a multi-millionaire, famous with names all on their buildings and stuff. They don't care about that. Like, think about it. Do you care about your great grandmother? Like, did they have to be the Rockefellers or whatever for them to feel important for you? Like, no, right? So being able to preserve that is definitely one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about helping people to produce good books and to share their messages with the world. So let me ask you, like, who are you? You know, who are you? Think about it to your core. I'm gonna let you like breathe it in for a moment. Like, breathe in and really think deeply. Breathe out. Like, who am I? Who am I? Who am I? Think about that for a moment. Like, really, who am I? Outside of, you know, I have this degree, or I have this house or whatever, but like, who am I? Like, what do I stand for? What are the reasons that I feel I'm here? Like, how am I contributing to both those in my immediate community as well as outside? Like, what am I doing? Who am I? Who am I? Right? Who am I? And I don't want you to start getting hung up on big ideas. A lot of people, for some reason, when you start talking about books and you start talking about legacy, a lot of people start to minimalize who they are. They start to feel as though if they don't have that big name, if they're not an Obama, then if they're not a Jeff Bezos, if they're not, you know, someone that is out there in society, a big actor or whatever, that their story isn't important. No one would want to know their story. No one would care about who they are or what they have to do. Where did we get that from, that we started to create this hierarchy of human beings based on how much money they make and what they do, right? It's false. It's absolutely false. Every single one of us have our unique set of skills, our unique set of experiences, our unique ideas, the inspirations that come to us. Every single one of us has those, right? And they are equally as important as anybody else that has a $50 million company or the like. So I want us to recognize that our story is worthy. A lot of my clients sometimes will come when they're in the memoir. Memoirs are not the only types of book, but I'm focusing on that tonight. But, you know, when they're writing about legacy, sometimes they'll start to be like, Z, like, I don't know if anybody really wants to hear what I have to say, or, you know, like, would anybody really care? You know, you kind of hear people start to bring them own selves down, kind of start knocking who they are and deem themselves unworthy. But I want to tell you that you have something that can be of benefit to other people. You have something that can be of benefit to other people. Aziza says, I am a young woman who loves learning from anyone, which is a very, very, very good positive trait, right? So awesome. So who are you? Now, you know, when we think about books, how many people, first of all, I know some of you all have started writing a book, but how many people here have thought of writing a book? I'm just curious. So you can type into the chat, like, how many people, if you've thought about writing a book, type in, you know, I have. And that way I know that you've thought about writing a book. There are studies, one done by the New York Times, that shows that 80% of the American population say that they want to write a book. 80% of the American population at one point in time has said that they want to write a book. Clearly, although we have, you know, some 300 million books published a year or such, not everyone who says they want to write a book actually do write a book, right? So why? Why not? Sister Jane says she has, but she started and stopped. Amina says, I have. Janelle says, yes, yearning to write and see where that goes. Akua says, I have. Awesome. So a lot of people put writing a book on the back burner because they think that it's so hard, right? Like, how would I ever have the time to write a book? How would I ever have the fortitude to actually sit down day by day and hammer this thing out? And so just the idea of writing a book becomes overwhelming. And that stops people. It stops people, it sabotages people, and they end up having their books on the back burner for months, for years, for decades. Some of my clients have literally sat on their books for 25 years. Now, the great Maya Angelou, she said, the greatest burden is carrying an untold story inside of you. The greatest burden is carrying an untold story inside of you. You know that feeling when you have something that you should be sharing, but it's like just weighing on you super duper heavy. You know what I mean? Like, she put that to words, that that's a burden that people carry around, right? And it's true. And so unfortunately, everybody says, well, I'll write my book, tomorrow when the stars align, when it's 58 or when it's 72.5 degrees and the wind is just northwest, I will then write my book, right? There has to be perfect conditions for you to write your book. But let me tell you that none of us are promised tomorrow. None of us are promised tomorrow. I don't mean to be morbid, but it's true. We are born, and what else? We die, right? Do you know when you're gonna die? No, you don't. None of us have control over that. Any of us at any moment can be a goner. And I'm not saying this to scare us, but it's reality. You and I both know that. So why do we think that we can continue to put off things until tomorrow? You can't. You can't. And so sadly, so many people continue to put their books off tomorrow with their skills, with their lessons learned, with their experiences, and then their stuff ends up 6 feet under. And so we wonder why our society keeps going in circles and circles back around and around and around. And while we're not having the real positive evolution that we want to see in our world, it's because all of the lessons learned, all the skills and ideas that many people have, only a small fraction of them actually see daylight. The majority of the inspirational thoughts and ideas and items that come to people end up 6 feet in the ground. So you and I have a choice. You and I have a choice. We can decide that I'm going to share my message with the world, with my community, with my family, whatever level you want to share your story and your message on. Or you can decide that I'm just going to let it die with me. And if you're comfortable with that, if you feel good with that, then so be it, right? If you're able to live like that and that works for you, so be it. But for those of us who are feeling called to share our messages in a bigger way, you cannot wait for tomorrow. You can't wait for the stars to align. You can't wait for everything to just seem perfect. Your schedule is just clear. You just got hours and hours for days. It's not going to happen. The only way that you can actually get your book done is when you make a clear decision for yourself that I'm going to do it. And when you make that clear decision, then you start to put things in place to achieve that goal, just like any other goal that anyone wants to achieve. It's not enough for me just to wish it. Well, I just wish I wish I could, do this. I wish I could buy a house. I wish I could do this. No, it's not enough for me just to wish it. I have to see the vision, right? I have to see the vision, and then I have to make a plan and I have to act. You have to visualize and act. Visualize and act. What did Walt Disney say? He said, if you can see it, you can achieve it. If you can dream it, you can achieve it, right? So I want those of you who are here right now who have been thinking about writing a book, I want you to close your eyes, do it with me, Do it with me. It may feel strange. I'm going to close mine too. But I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to visualize holding your book in your hand. I want you to look down at your book. I want you to see your name down there. See your name on the front cover of that book. And I want you to feel the satisfaction of having done it. Feel that satisfaction of having had the idea and the dream to write a book, and then actually going through it and doing it and getting to the finish line, holding your book in hand. So I want to hear from some of you all. You can type into the chat box. I don't know if I can have you speak or not, but I want to hear from some of you all. Like, do you see the vision for yourself? Do you see yourself with your book? It's like you have made your dream come true. So Daima, I'm working on the children's book series. Do you see that for yourself? Do you see the vision for yourself of you holding your book in hand? Now, it's a decision. Everything that we do in life is a decision. You make a decision that you're going to do it, and then we move forward, right? And then we move forward. So I want for less and less, my vision is for more and more of us, I should say it that way, more and more of us to actually start to put our ideas together and get them out there into the world. So today I'm focusing on legacy, right? I'm focusing on legacy. And I want to share just a couple of things with you that you can take away from today and start with your book, all right? I'm going to give you just a couple of things that you can do to take away and start with your book. So first of all, I just want to differentiate between a memoir and an autobiography, right? A memoir and an autobiography. So we're talking about the book itself now, like what type of book? These are not the only types of books. These are not the only types that you could put forward. Your book could be on how-to, it could teach, it could be a journal, it could be a 365 quotes around some subject. There are a multitude of different formats that you could write a book on. So I never want you to think that you only have just these two, but I'm going to just focus on these two right now. So you have a memoir and you have an autobiography, right? So a memoir is where you write about a specific story of your life. So like one of my clients, let's see, I have this one here. So Lawyers, Lies, and Labradors. Her name is Kivini Ivane, right? So this is her memoir, and it's about how she left a soul-sucking corporate lawyer life and abandoned that and moved into being like a prosperity coach and that works with animal healers. Like she listens to animals and gets messages to help their owners become prosperous. I'm not going to go into it, but that's what she does or whatever. So it's not all about Kivini was born in, 1962 at such and such. That's not all it, right? The story is a specific story on a specific part of her life. That's what a memoir is. It focuses on a particular part of your life, right? Versus an autobiography is your full life story. Think of the autobiography of Malcolm X, right? Or like it's the full life. It's your full life. So the majority of us are going to be, if you're writing a book for the public, you're going to be writing a memoir. If you're writing a book just for your family, right? Where the goal is to be able to preserve your story and your history for your family alone, your autobiography is more likely what you're going to be focused on. So again, the autobiography is going to be your full life story. A memoir is where you're taking something special, something that you've learned, a particular lesson, a particular happening, something, an experience that you want to share, right? You're taking that and then you're writing about that experience. Think about Eat, Pray, Love, one of the most popular memoirs for women, right? Eat, Pray, Love isn't about her entire life. It's about Gilbert's time where she, after her divorce, and then she went on this pilgrimage, right, to these 3 different areas. That's what the book is about. It's not about her in high school, right? And so when you're writing a memoir, you're taking something out of your life that is going to be a story that you can tell someone else so that they can then get the lessons that you learned from that particular area, right? From that particular experience. So they're a little bit similar, but they're a little bit different, right? They're a little bit different. All right. So today I'm going to focus just quickly on the memoir. And if you all have any questions, let me know. We're going to do a quick brainstorm. Does everybody, I don't know if you have paper or not. If you have paper, grab a piece of paper. If you don't have paper, you can just type into the chat box and use that as a space. But I want you to take 3 minutes and just do a quick brainstorm, brain dump of all the things you could write about for your book. All right? All the things you could write about for your book. So just take 3 minutes, shake up your head, and then write down all the things you could write about for your book. I wish I had Jeopardy music, but I don't. And you don't want me to sing. So 3 minutes. Don't second guess yourself. Don't worry about making your brain dump, brainstorm list perfect. Just get it out and just write it down onto the paper. We got about 1 more minute. How long is the class? So we will be ending in about 10 minutes, Aziza and Aaliyah. So we'll be ending in about 10 minutes. And if you stay to the end, I have a gift that I'm going to give you all as well. So don't leave before 10 minutes. Okay, so I want you all to type some things into the chat box. Let's see, out of this group of that we have right here, let's see some of the possible topics that you all are thinking about for your book. So type them into the chat box. Type and enter, type and enter. Don't type all of them and then press enter, but just type and then enter. So your kids, your job and life, fibro, yep, marriage. Keep going. Relationships, okay. Childhood, my witnessing a chief being crowned in Ghana, self-healing, travel experiences, weddings, ministry, family. Keep going. Baking, photo journal, job, travel experience. Keep going, keep going. Siblings, my photography, divorce, keep going. Teen pregnancy, keep going, keep going. Shake up your head and think about anything in your life that you feel somebody else could get some benefit from, like jot it down. Proverbs and African cloths. Yep, keep going. There's at least 10 people here. So I know at least each of you should have at least 3 different ideas that you could write about. Sexual assault, yep. Probate work in hospital, keep going. Vegan African cuisine, keep going. Her dad's story, keep going. Life and death, keep going. How to do head wraps like you, keep going. Forgiveness, keep going. Incest, keep going. Photography book, keep going. My youth, keep going. Returning to college, keep going. Sub teacher, keep going. Rosa Parks, keep going. Entrepreneurship, yes. So look at just the plethora of different ideas and that you all have unique experience with, right? Each of you have unique experience with these topics, which means that you have something that you know that could help somebody else live life a little bit better. It doesn't mean that you have to be some major expert in such and such area. You don't need to have a PhD in going back to school, going back to college. You don't need a PhD in order for you to be expert enough to talk about that. You have lived experience. You have the lived experience, which gave you the knowledge that you need in order to share with somebody else. Experiencing Faith Business Bookstore. So what we do is that once we have a list of different things that we possibly want to talk about, then we start to narrow them down, right? We start to narrow them down and we think about what is the biggest story that I could tell right now? What is that one big pivotal moment in my life that totally changed the trajectory of everything? It changed the way I think, perhaps, or it changed the way I acted, or it allowed different things to happen that would not have happened before, right? So you're thinking about what that pivotal moment is. It could be a moment, or it could be a skill. It could be an idea. It doesn't have to just be a moment. It could be a skill that you hold or an idea that you want to bring forward, right? So when you have your list of topics, you have your list of topics, all the possible topics. Then I want you to narrow it down just to one thing that you want to focus on for your memoir. And if you're writing a memoir, remember, an autobiography is your whole life. A memoir focuses on one pivotal thing, one pivotal experience, skill, idea, whatever, one thing, right? It focuses on one thing or one theme, I should say, too. One thing or one theme. So when you have that, this is going to be the guidepost for your writing. This is going to be your why, actually, as well, like why you're writing. If I'm writing about incest and I'm telling the story about incest that happened in my family or with someone in my family or such, right? I'm telling that story to help somebody else be able to spot the signs, perhaps, or be able to stop it, right, in their life. So everything that you're bringing forward isn't just to be talking about it. It's always connected to creating positive evolution in our society, right? It's always connected in creating positive evolution in our society. So what I have for you all, because I see it's 7:48, and we're going to open up for just a couple of minutes of questions or such. But I know that I'm not able to cover everything centered around here today. But what I hope is that you see that you have something that you can share with the world, whether it be a 500-page Harry Potter book or whether it be a 60 or 30-page book. You have something that you can share with the world that will allow us to contribute to the positive evolution of society, as well as capture your legacy and leave your written legacy. So I have a checklist that I put together. Let me see, did I put the link in here? No, I didn't. Drats. So I would drop it into the chat box. So I have a checklist that gives you an overview of the publishing and writing process, right? What we're doing right now together is that we are beginning to lay out the foundation for our book. You're becoming the architect for your book. No one would dream of building a building or constructing a museum or a hospital or something, any type of structure. You would never conceive of creating that structure without laying out the plan. What's the plan for this, right? No concrete goes into that ground without that architectural sketch first. Same thing for good power books. You just don't sit down and think, bam, bam, I'm gonna just write my book right now. No, that's how you end up with writer's block. And that's how people end up trying to write a book for 15, 25, 35 years. It's not their fault, but they just don't have the proper structure. They just don't know exactly how to use a book writing formula to get it done. So I have condensed our book writing formula into a checklist so that you can actually see what it takes to get your book done. And what you started today is you started laying out that architectural sketch, that design, if you will, of what your book topic may look like, and also your why, like why you're doing this. All right. So I'm going to give you the link. It is available for those of you who are here at this event. So bookpowerpublishing.com/checklist. So it's totally free. You can download it. And if you have any questions, then you can just pop over to our Facebook page, or I guess I'll put my email to support@ Book Power Publishing. So that's our email. You can email us any questions that you have as well. So let's see. Faiza says, would a book with only a recorded version be considered publishing? If I spent the time recording it and made it available in audio version only, basically what is defined as publication versus producing? Okay, salam, walaikum salam. So yes, books are different formats. So you can have an audio book, right? You can have a paperback book. You can have a hardcover book. You can have an ebook. All of those are valid books, if you will, right? Valid books. So in the old days of printing, a book was considered something that was like 49 pages or more. If it was like less than 49 pages, it was like a booklet. And more than 49 pages was a book. But nowadays, nobody actually really goes by that so much. So yes, if you want to do a recorded version of your book, right, that's an audio book, and that's perfectly fine. That's perfectly fine as well. All right, so let's see if there are any other questions for this evening. And again, my name is Zarinah, but my goal is for you all, you're welcome. My goal is for you all to see that writing a book is doable when you follow a structure, and it's easier than you think. And you need to do it. Like, it is a gift for both yourself as well as your family and your community. So no longer do we just have to kind of hold that kind of idea inside of us. All right, so let's see if there are any other questions. And if not, then you all again can go to bookpowerpublishing.com/checklist, download the free checklist. This chat box is gonna go away. So I would say grab the link now before the chat box goes away. If I'm writing about marriage, is it still considered a memoir if it spans 47 years? Right, 47 years is a lifetime, which is beautiful. But yeah, it can be a memoir or slightly like autobiography-ish, or it could be like a process book, you know, which means this is what you do, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, 5 steps to building a lasting marriage, right? Where you use your life as the story, as the inspiration. You share bits of your life, but you may be telling them, do this, do this, do this, do this, right? So yeah, it can be a memoir, or it can also be like a how-to, type of book as well. But you need to do that because everybody getting divorced now. So so go ahead and write that. So I can talk about learned experience. Yes, you can talk about your book, you all, is your book. There are like some formulas to writing a good book, but you have the ability to put the information in there that you feel is going to be useful. Your job as the author, you don't have to be a fantastic writer, like all the grammatical rules, all that stuff. You don't need all that to write an amazing book. Your editor will fix all the grammar and stuff. Your job as the author is to get the ideas out of your head and down onto paper, right? And your job as the author is to do that in a way that is going to connect to your reader. So if your reader reads that book and they get the message that you're putting down, right? They get the takeaway message that I can just stop this. They get the takeaway message that you want to impart to them, right? They get to walk away with that idea, that big lesson learned, or that skill or whatever that you're sharing with them. Then you're a success. You're a success. Don't get hung up on A versus and. Should I put the comma here? Should I put like all that stuff? Will sabotage you from actually writing the book. Don't worry about that stuff now. Your job now, when you begin to write, is simply to get your ideas out of your head, down onto paper, and then later on, editing and such will come, polishing and such will come. Technical question. How does one get those ISBN? So ISBN, these questions, I'll answer as many as I can right now. And I know we only have like 2 minutes. So technical question. So ISBN is called the International Standard Book Number, right? International Standard, yeah, book number. So what it's the social security number for your book, right? It's the social security number for your book. They are run on a country to country basis. So if you're in the United States, there's one place to get them. It's called Bowker, Bowker. You go to myidentifiers.com. You can purchase a block of ISBN from there. You can also get free ISBN, which I won't have time to really go into the details about that, but you can get free ISBN. There are pros and cons to everything free, right? But you can get them. But if you're in Canada, then you have to go through the Canadian International Standard Book Number, you know, people who control it there. Whatever country you're in, you have to get it from that particular country, right? So that's where you get them. Why do you need one? It is like let's say I have a book. Let's say 2 books have the same exact title. You can't trade, if you can trademark something, but a book title, you can have 2 books that have the exact same title, right? Just because one person has it out, if they didn't trademark it, copyright is not the same. It's a whole other subject. But your ISBN identifies which book is which. So if they both have the same name, but they have different ISBN, then just like 2 people can have Michael Jackson, but you know, that Michael Jackson, he got his social security number, right? And the other one, you know, he's not the same guy. So that's what a ISBN does. It identifies the book individually, and it also identifies the publisher, right? It does both of those things. Okay. So if you all have any other questions, download the checklist. A lot of that stuff, it's not everything is in, like the small things are in there, but it's going to give you a big overview of the publishing process and what goes through. And then of course, I'm always here. We have a free Facebook group as well that you can drop in and ask questions as well. Okay. All right. So I pass it back to you, Emily. You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. And thank everybody for coming today. Remember, if you do want to check out our next evening sessions, it's going to be taking place on February 17th with Kareem Bowen. This was a wonderful presentation. I loved having Zarinah here, and hopefully we'll see everybody in the future. Have a great night.
Good night, everyone.